Okay, everybody. Hey, it's Jake Gibson from the Paws podcast, and this is the Paws postgame show. FIU football just lost to Jacksonville State by a score of 34-31. Probably should have been even more than that, but their quarterback took a knee with with seconds to go. So, uh, regardless, just once again a devastating loss for FIU in another one-score game, and the Panthers are now eliminated from bowl game contention with a 3-7 record. Jack State moves on to 7-3. They have sole possession of the conference as far as actual records. Let me just make sure we really get going here that we're good on all socials. Once again, appreciate the love as always across all our platforms. Leading up to the game, as well as the halftime report and whatnot. Just want to make sure we're good on all stretches here. Kevin's way too busy. I'm assuming grabbing some quotes from coach and the players in Alabama. Not to mention just being in Alabama in general. He can't really join me. I'm shocked he got the time to hop on the halftime report, but yeah, generally speaking, just a tough loss for FIU, especially considering how great the offense looked. I felt like some of FIU's best overall games on offense were wasted away in losses, such as their games against Monmouth, Liberty, and now Jacksonville State. FIU still does not have a road win this season. However, we're hopeful they can at least get that done next week in Kennesaw State. But just my God, just an unbelievably frustrating way to lose that. We had talked about FIU's offense in the first half and how good they looked, and that pretty much was the case in the second half as well. The Panthers played really. They got the first touchdown in their opening drive. It was a very long drive. They find Eric Rivers in the end zone. It's nice to see him get a score. Prior to that, it was just Dean Patterson as far as actual receivers. Then the might have been the play of the season. The flea flicker double reverse pass from Jenkins to Antonio Ferguson for it was a 39 yard touchdown. That was an absolutely crazy play. I will admit that the OC, David Yost, was in his bag with that one. And it felt like, okay, FIU had the lead. Could they hold on to it? And the answer was no, because FIU's defense, granted, they had to go up against one of the best offenses, not just in Conference USA, but in the G5 level. They were cooked. They were absolutely destroyed by the Gamecocks when it mattered the most. There were two ginormous touchdowns that Jacksonville State were successful in that came off of one specific big time play. The first one was it was the first play on their drive. Let me make sure it was the right guy. Yeah, to their tight end, Sean Brown, 56 yards for a touchdown. If you look at the replay, Elijah Anderson Taylor was on him. He led up, and then from that point on, Brown was wide the hell open. And that was the first touchdown they gave up that was on one specifically big play. The second one was the drive after, where they were held to a 4th and 1. By the way, every time Jacksonville State was on 4th down, they were successful. They mainly relied on the tush push, which is always a frustrating thing to see when your team isn't successful in stopping the tush push. But on 4th and 1, Trey Edwards, who FIU had done a great job of containing prior to this play, runs 56 yards up the gut. Actually, I think it was to the side. And the Gamecocks get yet another touchdown on a very specific big play. Did I say Trey Edwards? I meant Trey Stewart. Trey Stewart ends up with 22 carries for 136 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not an amazing day for him, specifically based on what he's done with Jacksonville State up to this point, but still he does just enough. And obviously when they need him the most on that 4th and 1, he delivered, and he delivered damn hard. So, oh my gosh, Tyler Huff had a good game too, 15 for 28, 211 yards and 1 touchdown. This was a squeaky clean game as far as turnovers. FIU had that one fumble in the first half, but nothing after. So So, I mean, that's always nice to see. But I want to talk about one of the stars of the show here, though, Devontae Lyons, who came oh so close to being FIU's first 100-yard rusher in a single game this season. He ends up with 88 yards, 12 carries. He gets a touchdown as well. We were talking about it in the halftime show. Now I'm fully convinced that leading up to this game, they wanted to get him involved just to shake up the offense and maybe confuse Jacksonville State's defensive plan because nobody saw him coming. Now here's the problem with that. Lyons was the best runner for the best running back for FIU in this game. Lawrence played okay. He had 43 yards and a touchdown as well, but still, Lyons was the player with the hot hand and the hot legs, as you would say. They did not use Lyons once in the third quarter. They had, I believe, 3 drives in the third quarter, but I'll go and double check that real quick. They had 3 drives in the third quarter, and all of them, except for their first, which was a touchdown. The other 2 were punts, and not a single time was Lyons used during this stretch. And it's kind of a head scratcher because obviously you have the idea that they wanted to keep Lyons just, I guess, a surprise factor in this game. But if he was doing so well for this team, why did they not rely on Lyons in that third quarter entirely? In the fourth quarter, they, with about, I want to say 3 minutes to go. Actually, no, 5 minutes to go. Or actually, at the start of the fourth quarter entirely was when they started to use Lyons again. And he was good. But I feel like if you utilized him in the third quarter, not only would your running game had been even more effective than it was, but you'd also have your first 100-yard rusher of the regular season, and that did not happen. He ends up with 88 yards. So, let's talk about it feels like for the second straight season against this Jacksonville State game, there's a controversial call, or should I say lack of a call, that plays a factor into how the game ends. On their final drive for FIU, with I believe just a little over 2 minutes to go. First off, I'm not going to say it was completely on this missed call because the clock management and the overall play calling up to that point was not good. But on a 3rd and 5, Jenkins throws a pass to Eric. I believe it was Eric Rivers. Rivers is knocked to the ground. It's ruled incomplete. However, they go to review it for targeting, and I wish I could pull it up right now to show you guys. Maybe if I do a little bit of background work here, maybe I could see it. But they reviewed it for targeting. When you look at the replay, it sure looks like the Jacksonville State defender. No, it's obvious. It's clear and day helmet-to-helmet contact, but he even appears to lower his shoulder as well into Rivers, who was starting the process of diving. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, and this is going to be a targeting. Lo and behold, not only was it not only did the play stand, I believe it was even confirmed that there was no targeting, and it just it pisses me off, man. Just the fact that they had a good look at it. By the way, not one but 2 really good replays of that targeting call. And Jacksonville State gets away scot-free, and it's 4th and down. They obviously don't convert, and that's pretty much the end of the game. So it's just super frustrating to see a game end like that. Granted, that was 3rd and 5, 4th and on 4th down, they don't get it as well. So it is what it is. But I really think that should have been a targeting. I talked to some friends of ours, and they thought it should have been targeting as well, for the reasons that I just stated. Helmet to helmet, direct helmet to helmet, that can't be argued. He appeared to slightly lower his shoulder into Rivers as well. And I know it was a bang play. Rivers was already falling down, but by rule and for the safety of the players, the NCAA sort of prides plays on that, on being targeting, and it wasn't. So it's just another tough missed call, in my opinion, that didn't go FIU's way. And again, I'm not going to sit here. First of all, I'm not going to sit here and say that the season is basically over based off of this one game, because FIU had this isn't the only one-score loss those losses to Monmouth at home, an FCS team, the loss to UTEP. Granted, it was a 9-point loss, but still just a horrific offense from FIU in that game. Not to mention Jenkins getting hurt. The loss to Liberty, which we already talked about, could have maybe gone FIU's way had they done a couple of different things. And now this loss. I mean, they had their opportunities way, way, way back to not put themselves in a situation where you have to take on arguably the best team in Conference USA with 6 losses already. So, but Jesus, man, it sucks that that FIU's chance at a bowl game ends like this. Last year, their bowl game chances ended with a loss to Arkansas, which did suck because, I mean, come on, it's Arkansas. But to see it end this way, knowing that there were so many what-if scenarios this season. I can't remember a season where there were so many what-ifs that could have gone FIU's way. What if, they did what they were supposed to and beaten an FCS team in Monmouth? What if they weren't so sloppy with the ball against FAU? What if Jenkins doesn't get hurt against UTEP? And what if they stay aggressive and decide to go for 2 to win the game against Liberty instead of pushing it to overtime? There's been so many what if situations this season. As a fan, it's frustrating. As a member of the coaching staff and or one of the players on the team, I can imagine how frustrating this is for them, that they're not going to be able to go bowling because of these reasons. But overall, FIU played a really good game today. It was a very fun game to watch from the start and all the way to the finish, but it just didn't go the Panthers' way when they needed to the most. When they needed the offense to show up the most, it didn't. And when they needed the defense to show up the most, it also didn't. But still, Jenkins had a good game, 21 for 34, 258 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He was sacked a few times. He was great, and he was, for the most part, accurate with his passes. He didn't really try to force anything. He obviously didn't really throw any balls that really had a good shot at getting picked off or anything like that. He made a couple of plays happen as well. Just that whole flea flicker play to get that 1 touchdown for Ferguson. That was a thing of beauty. I'll give him that. But the offense as a whole, very poor clock management on that final drive to force the 2-minute timeout. And then obviously, I'm a firm believer that there should have been a targeting call on Jacksonville State's defense on that hit to Eric Rivers. That's the bottom line here. If you disagree, that's perfectly okay, but that's what I saw, and that's what I'm going to believe in, because I did see a bunch of replays. And again, I wish I could show you a replay of it, but I don't think anyone has really clipped it and posted it on social media yet. So it is what it is. Maybe that'll be shown at a later date. Who knows? But with the loss, maybe FIU will start to experiment a bit with some freshmen and whatnot in their next couple of games. By the way, 2 very winnable games coming up against Kennesaw State and then hosting Middle Tennessee on Senior Day to close out the season. Again, shout out to Devontae Lyons. You could say he was the player of the game just because of how unexpected his performance was, because none of us thought he would even be getting snaps in this game, and he turned out to be the leading rusher. Dean Patterson had a great game, 116 yards, 9 catches, no touchdowns though. They would come from both Eric Rivers and Antonio Ferguson. I guess Jacksonville State's defense really pressured Eric Rivers today, and it worked, but it meant leaving Dean Patterson open to 1v1s and sometimes just being wide open in general. Dean Patterson also made a couple of plays happen himself. Lions did lose that 1 fumble that was recovered by Jacksonville State in the first half, which I believe was converted into a touchdown. Yeah, a touchdown came off of that fumble. So some good and some bad. Just looking at some other stats here, FIU, it was a very even game offensively as far as yardage. 445 yards for Jacksonville State, 431 for FIU. The Panthers actually led in time of possession with 31 minutes compared to Jacksonville State's 28. Jacksonville State was 3 for 3 on 4th down, which I mentioned. FIU on 3rd down was not great, 6 for 13. Jacksonville State was also not great, 5 for 15. Rushing wise, people were predicting. I think Kevin said in the pregame show that he thinks Jacksonville State will get like 400 rushing yards in this game. They only ended up getting 234, which is still a lot, but kind of tame compared to what they usually put out against CUSA opponents. Now, for Jacksonville State, there was so much chaos in Conference USA today with Louisiana Tech beating Western Kentucky and UMass almost beating Liberty. Let me just double check the score of the Kennesaw State Sam Houston game because that could become pretty relevant. All right, it looks like actually, it looks like Kennesaw State has a chance to tie with less than 2 minutes to go to maybe push that to overtime. But it does look like the Bearcats will probably get the win in that. All this to say that the upset with Louisiana Tech beating Western Kentucky now moves Jacksonville State into sole possession of first place in Conference USA. Now it's going to be a grunge match between Western Kentucky and Sam Houston State as to maybe who can get that top spot. And Jacksonville State's not in the clear as well. They have to take on Sam Houston State, then Western Kentucky to close out their season, which is going to be crazy into determining not only who will get into the Conference USA title game, but who will host as well. So a lot can happen here. I think it's going to come down to a 3-team race between Western, Sam Houston, and Jacksonville State. So, but just tough loss for FIU. There's just no other way of putting it. You felt, man, riding the coattails of that upset between Louisiana Tech and Western Kentucky, that maybe there was a chance FIU could win this, and they had a great chance. But the defense was outclassed by Jacksonville State's offense in the second half, and FIU's offense, while they looked pretty good in the second half, not as consistent as they were in half number one, and that just led to this loss. So it was a great game, and unfortunately, just didn't go FIU's way in the end. They have fallen 3-7. They are eliminated from bowl game contention, and there might be a lot of discussion about that, in my opinion, missed targeting call on Jacksonville State on that final drive on Eric Rivers, which would have extended the drive, and who knows what would have happened after that. So I think we'll end it there. Again, final score, Jacksonville State 34, FIU 31. We're taking a break from episode 75 of the Paws podcast. We have a guy who we want, or girl, I'm not going to spoil it. We have someone who we have in mind that could be our guest. It's a big episode, 3/4 of the way to 100. We wanted to be a great guest, and we have some ideas. So we'll let you know when that happens. But until then, of course, we'll be back at it for our Pause Up preview next week as FIU takes on Kennesaw State. Even before that, we'll try to get some good coverage at the Watsco Center when FIU women's basketball takes on Miami. And we'll try to get on the Owl Chat guys to talk a bit about the Owls. And I know their season has been worse than ours. They fired their head coach. It might be a nice discussion with them. So your final score. Jacksonville State 34, FIU 31. This is Jay Gibson saying, have a great rest of the night and pause up.